Hi everyone, I'm Gina K from Gina K Designs and your host of Stamp TV. Today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you a fun background technique using one of the stamps from the Made with Love Stamp TV kit, and I'm going to show you a cool use for the Alison's ribbons dies. Let me show you the tools and products you need to make this card project. First, you're going to need some stamps, and the stamps that I am using are from the Made with Love kit, and this is from the Better With You stamp set that comes in the kit. And I'm using the greeting that says, "Everything's better with you." I'm going to use this bicycle built for two, and I'm going to be using this flower stamp, and this is just kind of an abstract rose stamp. Then I'm going to use some Gina K Designs Fine Detail White Embossing Powder, and I have an embossing buddy here, an embossing magic pad. And this removes static and any oils from the surface of your card so that the embossing powder only sticks to where you want it. For cardstock, I'm using one of the pattern papers from the Made with Love pattern paper pack. And then I have some black onyx, some white, and then you can use any color base you want. I was going to use the Blue Lagoon that comes in the kit, but I thought I would try it with an alternate color. This is our Dusty Rose. But you can also use the Sweet Mango or any of the kit cardstocks as well. Then I have a Tim Holtz paper piercing tool. I'm going to use that with the die. I have some of the large foam squares. And then for ink, I have the Gina K Designs White Pigment ink. I'm going to use this instead of Versamark because it might be a little hard for me to see if I just use the Versamark, and this will be a nice guide to show me where I'm stamping. And then I kept hearing a lot of things about VersaFine ink, so I picked one up and I tried it, and I really like it. It's a little bit different than the Gina K Designs black ink. Both are very black, both show a lot of fine detail, but my understanding is that with VersaFine, you can use it for watercoloring. So I don't think you can use it for Copic, but maybe you can. I haven't tried it yet. But the ink itself is really neat. I wanted to try it, and I wanted to show you that it's a good ink. We are going to be carrying this one in our store as well. Okay, so I also have the Alison's ribbon die plates. These are the two plates that come with the dies, and the one that I'm going to use is the smaller one. This has the more detailed dies. Here's another piece of black cardstock that I need, and then I'm going to use some of this Stick-It adhesive, and this is for die cutting, and I want to show you how cool this is and how great it works even with the most intricate dies. So let me put that aside. I also have my scissors, and I have some adhesive here. Alright, so I am going to start with this piece of Dusty Rose cardstock. And I'm going to use our white pigment ink and this whimsical rose stamp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a background that doesn't look like roses, but it looks more like swirls. And I'm going to do that by inking up this stamp real well. And then, before I do that, let me rub over it with the embossing magic pad. Ink that up a little bit more. And I'm going to start right in the center at the top, and I'm going to work off the piece of paper a little bit, like that. And then I'm going to keep turning this as I go, and I'm going to have them touch. And you can see why it is easier to use white pigment ink than Versamark ink, especially when you're doing something that's a little bit more precise where you're trying to get the roses lined up. And they don't have to be perfect. Now these are going to kind of go in the middle of the last row. And it's okay if there's a little overlapping. Once you get the main ones done, then you can fill in all around the edges. And the pigment ink is really good to use because, like I said, it gives you a good guide of where you are, but it also stays wet for a pretty long time, so it makes it easy to use with embossing powder. Do one there. Here. And I'm sure you've seen some of the other girls on our design team, girls and guys on our design team, do something similar to this, but it's just such a fun background. And it doesn't look like flowers once you do it this way. It just looks like a bunch of fun swirls. Turn that, fill that in, maybe a little bit right there. And that should do it. Okay, I'm going to put that aside. And then I have a little scrap piece of paper here. Then I'm going to pick this up and grab that white embossing powder. And I'm going to emboss all of these roses with this powder, because I really want them to be bright and jump out. And that little bit of extra shine is fun too. So there we go. That has all of the powder on it. Now let me get this out of the way. And I'm going to wipe my surface clean. Get that ink off of there. Okay. So now I'm going to emboss this using my heat tool. I use the Marvy heat tool. Any heat tool will do. Somebody asked me in one of our forums if you can use a hairdryer for embossing powder, and I'm going to say no. And the reason is because, number one, it's not going to get hot enough to melt the embossing powder, and number two, it's got such a force of air that it's likely to just blow the embossing powder right off of your card, and you don't want to do that. So make sure you get the right tool, and also never try to dry your hair with an embossing gun. That is very dangerous. Alright, you can see that coming up nice and shiny. And that is a fun background. See that? Now if you want, you can sponge over these and create a little bit of extra color, maybe using a passionate pink or cherry red, one of those colors. Or you can just leave it like this, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave it like this. And I'm going to add a piece of the black Onyx cardstock behind that. I just opened a new adhesive here, so I've got plenty for this card. Alright, and we'll layer that together. There we go. Okay. And then this whole panel is going to go onto my white heavy base weight card base. So I'm going to add that on next. It's just such a fun background. It actually is pretty just by itself, and you could put a really pretty greeting and maybe a piece of black silk or satin ribbon across the center. That would make a really pretty wedding card or something like that. Isn't that fun? Okay, so now I'm going to layer these two pieces together, and then I'm going to stamp my image and my greeting on here. So let's get that together. There we go. Then I'm going to put the bike at the top of this panel, and you'll notice with the VersaFine ink, it has a lid that's attached to it, but you can flip it over, so it makes it easy to handle. Alright. And you can see, just like the Gina K Designs ink, it's a nice deep black. So I'm going to stamp that right up here. Excuse my head if it gets in the way. Like that. And then I'm going to do the greeting underneath on that same panel. So I only need one panel for both the focal image and my greeting. There we go. Now I'm just going to put that aside, let that dry for a second. It does dry very quickly, but if it's not completely dry, it will smear. Now I'm going to put these two pieces together. This is my border piece from the Made with Love paper pack, and I have a strip cut that's just 1/8 of an inch larger in the black Onyx. line that up. It's not always easy to assemble these when you're holding them. Sometimes it's easier just to lay it down flat. And then this panel is going to go right here across the bottom, like that. It's really fun to mix these colorful patterns together, especially this time of the year. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm really looking forward to spring and summer, and I just want bright, fun colors. I'm tired of the earth tones right now. Okay, so there's the layout, and then this panel is going to go right on top like that, and I'm going to use some foam squares to adhere that. But before I do that, I want to add some of these Alison's ribbon dies. It's kind of a mouthful to say. So I'm using the Cheery Lynn crossover machine. They have a new machine out. It's called the Sister, I believe, and it's supposed to be smaller and easier to handle, so if I can get a hold of that, I will, and I can show you more about that. So this is a very cool thing, this Stick-It. It's extremely thin adhesive that goes onto the back of any of your cardstock that you want to cut out. So I'm going to just put a little bit right here. I'm going to cut that excess away, and I can use that for something else. So if you are going to cut some of it away, just save it. You don't have to peel it yet. And then I'm going to cut the whole thing here. I don't need much, but I can use every bit of it, that's for sure. Okay, so now we're going to find where it opens. There we go. Let's see, I've peeled that off. So it's sticky on one side and it's got protective paper on the other side. And I'm just going to lay that down right about here. Make sure I get it nice and smooth. Like that. And then if there's any extra off the edge, you can always trim it off if it bothers you. I don't want it to stick to my machine plate, so I'm just going to trim that off. Okay. All right, so with the Alison's Ribbons dies, one thing that you definitely should do is use the die face up so that the blade is up. And I'm actually going to, I'll use my paper cutter for this. You can see I have my little paper cutter here. I'm just going to trim this excess off. Save this black piece for another time. So you want to cut blade side up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this right here like this, because I just want to cut this first strip. So I don't need to cut the whole thing. I'm just going to eke it in there a little bit and then put my plate on top. And run it through the machine. Now I have this machine pretty tight. If you're using a Cuttlebug, you're going to have to do something like add a piece of cardstock or two just to shim it and make it a little bit tighter. Okay. So now I'm going to grab that craft pick. I'm going to just slip it under to lift that up. I can pull the rest of this off. I probably should have run it through a couple more times. Let's do that again. Let's do that again. Let me remove this. And actually, what I think I'm going to do is, just to be safe, is flip it over and have it sticker side down. It's still got the protective paper on it, but that's going to make sure that that cuts really well. All right, so we'll do it once, twice, 3 times, and back. Anytime you're using very, very intricate dies, you do want to run it through a couple times. There we go. All right. So again, let's grab that end and pull that up. Okay. So now you can see we've got the black strip, and on this side, you've got the white sticker. All right, now I want one more of those, so I'm going to do it again. Same thing. Put my plate on top and run it back and forth. Once, twice, 3 times, and done. Okay. And once again, I'll grab the end there to loosen it out of the die. Let's try this end. There we go. And there's the black side, and then there's the sticker side. Okay, now let me show you how much fun this is and what I'm going to do with these borders. I really like the look of blanket stitching, but it's time consuming, first of all, to do it on your cards. And I don't know that it's necessary when you have a die like this. Although this is a little vine die, if you put it in the right spot, it'll look like blanket stitching. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to grab my scissors, and I'm going to cut this. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it closer. I'm just going to cut it right at one of the leaves, there like that. And then, using my craft pick, just going to start that. Get it under there, and then I should be able to get it with my thumbnail. Yep. Okay. So there's the paper, and I'm pulling the paper off. There's one little spot that it is still there. I'll just use my craft pick to help it along. Okay. And now I'm going to lay that right up against that black line of my border, and so half of it's going to be on my pattern paper and half is going to be on my cardstock. See that? And that creates the look of blanket stitching. And you can see how easy it is when you use this stick-it, that you're not dealing with trying to use tape and other things on such fine detailed die cut pieces. And then I'll slip my scissors right under there and snip it off like that. So there is the top one. We're going to do that one more time. That's already cut in a really good spot. Alright, that came off pretty easy. Seems like that one little spot wants to stick. Get the rest of that off. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing down at the bottom here. Place it right along that line. And you can start pressing down as you have it straight. To me, this die set is amazing. The different combinations that you can do with it and what you can use it for. I'm just having so much fun with it all the time, and I know a lot of you are, because every time we get those dies in, no matter how many we get in, you guys rush in and grab them, and I don't blame you, because I love the look that you get from these. Then if you have anything, any little bits of glue, you can always just scrape them off with your craft pick. But that stick-it paper is just fantastic. So there I have that blanket stitch look. Then I'm going to put 4 of these foam squares on the back here. You can use the small ones or the large ones. Doesn't matter. Everything's staticky today. Okay. Oop. Well, that was dumb. Let's press that back down. Okay, and then this is just going to go right in the center here. Like that. And that is my finished card project. I hope you've enjoyed today's Stamp TV card project. Stay tuned to Stamp TV for more cards featuring the Made with Love Stamp TV kit. And thanks so much for watching.